Think spies are geniuses? Watch the dumbest real operations implode. From exploding cigars to Wi-Fi mistakes, these disasters actually happened. In Dubai, cameras beat disguises. In Salisbury, passports gave everything away. One agent even brought wigs, cash, and a map to Moscow. Another confessed on a beach, turning a submarine landing into arrests. If governments can't keep secrets, imagine what their enemies collected. Stay for the wildest blunders, from Berlin tunnels to hollow nickels. We'll open loops fast, then resolve every twist with verified details. 39 cases, pure chaos, and 0 boring intros. Ready to begin? Hitler, fooled by Phantom Army, D-Day deception worked perfectly. German tanks stayed guarding Pas-de-Calais while Normandy erupted elsewhere. The Phantom Army under George Patton looked loud, real, unstoppable. Inflatable tanks, fake radio traffic, and dummy camps clogged German reports. Double Agent Garbo sent believable lies from Britain to Abwehr. Luftwaffe aerial photos showed tracks and tents exactly where planned. Hitler kept panzer divisions north, expecting Patton to strike Calais. Normandy beachhead expanded, while German commanders waited for the main invasion. Even intercepted Allied chatter was scripted to reinforce the illusion. By the time doubts surfaced, the decisive window had closed. A corpse with fake plans duped Nazi intelligence. Operation Mincemeat. German planners trusted a dead courier more than living adversaries. Off Spain, a body carried Major William Martin identity with papers. British officers Ewan Montagu and Charles Chumley crafted the legend. They planted receipts, love letters, and theater stubs inside pockets. Spanish authorities shared copies with Germany, as London quietly hoped Berlin warned Sardinia and Greece, leaving Sicily dangerously underprepared. Allied landings hit Sicily hard, validating the corpse's careful fiction. Later analysis showed Hitler personally acknowledged the planted intelligence. A bizarre plan worked because rivals wanted confirmation, not doubt. Zimmerman telegram decrypted, dragging America into World War I. A single telegram shoved America closer to Europe's bloodiest war. Britain's Room 40 intercepted Germany, inviting Mexico against the United States. Arthur Zimmerman promised Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona after victory. British codebreakers decrypted carefully, then masked their cable-tapping source. They passed the text through American intermediaries to avoid embarrassment. When it went public, many doubted authenticity, until Zimmerman confirmed authorship. The message erased doubts in Washington about German intentions. It also enraged Mexico, which had zero appetite for war. A leak, plus pride, turned cryptography into geopolitical dynamite. U-2 pilot Francis Gary Powers captured with spy gear intact. A wrecked U-2 and a living pilot shattered plausible deniability. Over Sverdlovsk, Francis Gary Powers was hit by a missile. His survival kit included a poison pin hidden inside currency. Washington initially denied, then scrambled after Moscow displayed the evidence. Khrushchev milked the embarrassment, and the summit collapsed painfully. Powers admitted mission details carefully, avoiding further damage during interrogation. The aircraft's cameras and film rolls showcased America's high-altitude spying. Soviet recovery teams displayed wreckage pieces like trophies for propaganda. One downed flight reset expectations about secrecy in the jet age. Miss 6. Let Kim Philby hunt moles. He was the mole. Britain asked a suspected traitor to hunt other suspected traitors. Kim Philby ran counterintelligence while secretly serving Soviet interests. He briefed Americans in Washington, learning exactly who hunted moles. Burgess and McLean fled after warnings, confirming fears about leaks. Philby survived inquiries, deflecting with charm, contacts, and practiced ambiguity. Eventually, mounting evidence squeezed him toward quiet exile in Beirut. From there, he disappeared to Moscow, embraced as a hero. Colleagues later realized he'd sabotaged operations for years undetected. The irony still bites. A fox guarding the henhouse nightly. Aldrich Ames's flashy spending screamed traitor before anyone listened. Washington watched luxury purchases while agents disappeared across Moscow. Aldrich Ames wore expensive suits and paid cash for homes. He sold names to the KGB, devastating networks in place. Bank records screamed trouble, yet internal probes stalled for years. Eventually, surveillance caught meetings, transfers, and coded dead-drop behavior. Arrests followed quickly, but several executed assets remained unacknowledged. Ames blamed finances. Investigators blamed negligence, layered with bureaucracy. His sentence closed one chapter, not the damage already done. A fancy car turned into the loudest counterintelligence alarm bell. Robert Hansen caught at a dead drop with trash bag. An FBI lifer left secrets under a park footbridge. Robert Hansen labeled drops with tape and used plastic bags. He hid behind code names while monitoring investigations from inside. Colleagues missed clues, including odd searches and restricted file access. A paid informant provided the voice tapes that finally matched. Agents grabbed Hansen at Foxstone Park, handcuffs replacing his briefcase. The betrayal stretched decades, bleeding cases across continents and years. He said motives were money and ego, not ideology or romance. A trash bag became the symbol of catastrophic insider damage. Anna Chapman's suburban spy ring unraveled over Starbucks Wi-Fi. A glamorous profile couldn't hide terrible tradecraft in suburbia. Anna Chapman moved messages through Wi-Fi, steganography, and awkward meetings. The sleeper cell shopped at malls and chatted about mortgages. FBI surveillance watched brush passes, laptops, and deliberate coffee shop pairings. A clumsy exchange in Manhattan triggered coordinated arrests across states. The swap to Vienna returned them home, minus their legends. Russian media embraced the spectacle. Intelligence officers rolled their eyes. The message was simple. Cover stories need discipline, not bravado. A suburban spy ring fell because ordinary life leaves patterns. Mossad's Lillehammer mistake. They killed the wrong man. Norway jailed foreign agents after a fatal mistaken identity. Mossad teams hunted Black September, but shot Ahmed Bouchiki instead. Surveillance routines looked right, yet background confirmation went wrong. Local police watched rentals, false plates, and suspicious tourist behavior. Arrests followed quickly, exposing forged passports and safehouse arrangements. Courtroom scenes embarrassed Paris and Jerusalem, while families mourned quietly. The real target, Ali Hassan Salameh, remained alive for years. Operational impatience met the hard edge of local accountability. The outcome reshaped approvals for deniable operations inside friendly democracies. Dubai hotel hit exposed by CCTV and cloned passports. A hotel corridor turned into the world's most documented takedown. In Dubai, Mahmoud Al-Mabou was found dead inside his room. Investigators stitched movements using check-in videos, elevators, and door logs. The team recycled identities from passports issued in Europe and Australia. Tennis outfits and wigs looked bold, but cameras saw everything anyway. Photos, timestamps, and credit trails mapped the operation almost frame by frame. International outrage followed as travelers discovered their identities reused. The message echoed, "Every modern lobby is a rolling database." A precise hit unraveled because anonymity died under ambient surveillance. Top secret war papers forgotten on a British commuter train. Commuters found national secrets wedged beside forgotten newspapers and receipts. A British official misplaced classified folders on a crowded commuter train. The cache included threat assessments and sensitive operational details. Station staff alerted authorities, who collected everything with gloves. News spread fast, forcing emergency reviews of handling procedures nationwide. The official was disciplined, and documents were traced and secured. Investigators later found repeated lapses in basic transport security rules. Simple carelessness became a gift to anyone watching closely. One briefcase on a train platform created an avoidable national headache. Moscow's infamous spy rock exposed a clumsy covert gadget. A fake rock turned espionage into an outdoor museum exhibit. Moscow security filmed handlers touching the stone and collecting data. Inside, there was radio gear and electronics for covert drops. British officials denied involvement until later confirmations trickled out. State television replayed the footage, highlighting embarrassing operational shortcuts. The device relied on close approaches, which looked suspicious in practice. Embassy statements suddenly emphasized compliance, avoiding deeper technical discussions. A stone in a park became diplomatic friction for months. Everyone learned the same thing: gadgets failed dramatically when filmed. Salisbury poisoners unmasked by CCTV, passport data, and Bellingcat. Two visitors claimed cathedral tourism. Cameras captured a very different tour. Sergei Skripal and his daughter collapsed on a bench in Salisbury. Investigators followed perfume packaging, door handles, and train timetables precisely. Passport data linked aliases to sequential numbers and military housing. Online sleuths matched faces to real officers using leaked databases. The suspects insisted tourism, despite snowstorms and a closed spire. A discarded bottle later harmed bystanders, deepening public anger. Britain expelled diplomats. Allies followed with coordinated measures abroad. A poisoning became forensic storytelling through cameras, tickets, and passports. Nazi saboteur turned himself in, dooming the Long Island landing. A saboteur walked into the FBI and detonated the plot. On Long Island, George Dash landed from a submarine at night. His team cached explosives in dunes near Amagansett quiet beach. Doubting success, he called authorities and offered detailed cooperation. Arrests followed in New York and Florida within days. Military tribunals sentenced several, with clemency granted to Dash. German handlers had trusted inexperienced recruits for a complex mission. The landing party carried money marked and clothes revealing manufacturing clues. One phone call exposed everything faster than any counterintelligence sweep. Soviets reused one-time pads. Venona unmasked entire spy networks. Reused cipher pads turned unbreakable codes into painfully readable confessionals. Soviet one-time pads accidentally duplicated pages across distant stations. American cryptanalysts noticed patterns, then slowly pried messages open. The traffic referenced agents embedded in laboratories and embassies. Names emerged over years. Some matched ongoing surveillance and defections. Not every message yielded. Enough did to change prosecutions. The revelations fueled debates still echoing through legal histories. For codemakers, a clerical shortcut turned catastrophic globally. For spies, backups betrayed them long after missions seemed finished. The KGB archivist who smuggled notes for years undetected. A quiet archivist walked out carrying years of secrets. Vasily Mitrokhin copied KGB files by hand inside dusty stacks. He hid notes behind walls and under floorboards at home. After the Soviet collapse, he approached Western officials in Riga. The trove mapped operations, dead drops, and covert influence abroad. Intelligence services corroborated parts, then ran new investigations quietly. Moscow never noticed for years, despite routine audits and controls. Later disclosures sparked lawsuits, denials, and furious historical debates. One patient pen became the sharpest file in the building. Jonathan Pollard tried the Israeli embassy. They locked the door. A sprint to an embassy ended with an arrest outside. Jonathan Pollard, a Navy analyst, feared exposure and panicked. He drove to the Israeli embassy in Washington seeking refuge. Security refused sanctuary. The FBI waited right beyond the gate. Investigators later traced years of document theft and dead drops. He had copied materials ranging from satellite data to assessments. Sentencing sparked diplomatic strain alongside internal counterintelligence soul-searching. Israel eventually acknowledged involvement, complicating already tangled relationships. A locked door turned desperation into an unforgettable cautionary tale. U.S. Marines wooed by KGB let spies into embassy. A romance in Moscow opened doors that should have stayed locked. Marine Guard Clayton Lonetree was targeted by a KGB officer. A colleague, Violetta Sena, played the girlfriend role with patience. He allowed access that compromised alarms, codes, and patrol routines. Investigations spread to Vienna and beyond, checking other guard posts. Courts-martial followed, with sentences reflecting serious security breaches. Diplomatic buildings learned the hard limits of temptation and trust. Manuals were rewritten, but reputational damage lingered for years. One relationship altered security doctrine from guardroom to ambassador's office. French agents sank the Rainbow Warrior and got arrested. A peaceful harbor witnessed secret agents planting limpet mines. In Auckland, the Rainbow Warrior sank beside the quay overnight. 2 blasts ripped the hull, killing photographer Fernando Pereira. New Zealand police followed, receipts, rentals, and false identities quickly. Agents Alain Maffart and Dominique Prieur were arrested and charged. Paris denied involvement before diplomatic pressure forced awkward acknowledgments. The fiasco damaged alliances and supercharged Greenpeace's global profile. Wellington insisted on justice, despite enormous external political pressure. Sabotage in friendly waters backfired harder than any protest ever. The hollow nickel case. Paperboy accident exposed a spy ring. A paperboy dropped a coin and spilled a secret. In Brooklyn, a hollow nickel cracked, revealing tiny microfilm. The film carried numbers linked to a coded communication system. Investigators followed trails to a Soviet agent using aliases. Eventually, they reached Rudolf Abel, a seasoned illegal resident. A courier's sloppy cash turned into a multi-year mole hunt. Arrest teams searched safe houses, finding cameras, cipher pads, and radios. Abel's calm demeanor barely moved while interrogators presented mounting evidence. One cracked coin became the most famous nickel in counterintelligence. CIA officer caught in Moscow with wigs, cash, and map. Russian television paraded disguises while a rookie mistake stole headlines. In Moscow, CIA officer Ryan Fogel was detained on a street. He carried wigs, cash, a compass, and a recruitment letter. FSB officers filmed everything, from his shoes to the wig. Washington protested quietly while Moscow showcased evidence on evening broadcasts. The letter offered money for information, written in clumsy phrasing. Fogel was declared persona non grata and quickly expelled. The haul looked theatrical, but the damage landed squarely in Washington. A city of cameras turned spycraft into a public unmasking. Dutch stopped a GRU intern with a cringy backstory. Customs officers stopped a diplomat in training who wasn't a diplomat. In the Netherlands, Sergei Cherkasov posed as Brazilian student Victor Ferreira. He aimed for an internship at the International Criminal Court. Dutch intelligence exposed a backstory filled with impossible childhood details. Dates, neighborhoods, and family names clashed under basic document checks. He was deported, later jailed abroad on unrelated fraud charges. The case showed meticulous legend building collapsing under simple factual cross-checks. Investigators published timelines showing years cultivating the false Brazilian identity. A flimsy origin story unraveled faster than any classified cable. A shoddy covert website exposed. CIA informants and networks. A homegrown web tool quietly endangered human sources across continents. A covert communications website was reused across regions with minimal changes. Security researchers and adversaries noticed patterns linking supposedly separate portals. Shared domains, predictable login flows, and mirrored code betrayed connections. Once identified, hostile services rolled up networks in rapid succession. Investigations later found poor compartmentation and shortcuts under operational pressure. Intelligence officers rebuilt systems while counting lost partners and opportunities. The lesson echoed harshly: reuse equals risk in hostile environments. A small interface decision cascaded into life-and-death consequences for many. Bay of Pigs' plausible deniability collapsed in global embarrassment. A deniable invasion became undeniable on primetime radio worldwide. In Cuba, exiles trained abroad landed at Playa Girón. Supply ships ran aground, while aircraft missed crucial targets early. Havana mobilized quickly. Local militias boxed the beachhead tight. Washington hesitated on air support, fearing fingerprints and escalation. Captured fighters confessed origins, collapsing the paper-thin deniability instantly. Fidel Castro toured wrecked equipment, turning failure into televised spectacle. The fiasco reshaped planning for covert actions for years afterward. A quiet plan exploded publicly, and policy shifted overnight. Portland's spy ring cracked after a Polish defector talked. A Polish defector cracked open a careful espionage pipeline. In Britain, Michael Golanewski revealed details of Soviet naval targeting. His tips exposed the Portland spy ring gathering submarine secrets. Surveillance followed Harry Houghton, Ethel G., and others methodically. Arrests captured microdots, dead letter procedures, and coded communications samples. Courtroom testimony walked through payoffs and camera work in detail. The case embarrassed security around sensitive underwater research establishments. It also validated defector information skeptics had previously sidelined. A whisper from Warsaw echoed loudly through British dockyards. The Falcon and the Snowman, reckless tradecraft, swift arrests. Two friends turned treason into a clumsy Southern California caper. Christopher Boyce stole satellite intelligence from a defense contractor vault. Andrew Dalton Lee delivered packages to handlers in Mexico City. Surveillance tracked border crossings and suspicious cash for months. A dropped envelope and nervous habits accelerated coordinated arrests quickly. Interrogations revealed naive motives wrapped in grand talk and resentment. Prosecutors laid out photocopiers, signal plans, and coded nicknames plainly. The story later became a film, but facts stayed stubborn. Reckless tradecraft met ordinary police work and lost decisively. MI6 chief's life exposed by wife's public Facebook photos. A social media profile embarrassed Britain's new intelligence chief. Family photos, holiday plans, and address details appeared publicly visible. John Soare's wife reportedly posted updates without strict privacy settings. Newspapers feasted while officials rushed to lock accounts down. The timing was awful, just before his official appointment. Critics argued basics of operational security were ignored at home. Supporters said it was human, fixable, and blown out proportion. Either way, training modules gained an instant, memorable case study. A few clicks turned private life into a counterintelligence lecture. Drunk KGB courier betrayed Abel with sloppy tradecraft. A tipsy courier toppled one of Moscow's prized illegals. Reino Hyhanen, a KGB operative, wavered during interviews in Europe. He approached American officials, hinting at networks inside New York. Investigators traced signals, safe houses, and coded holocoins. The trail led to Rudolf Abel, a disciplined resident spy. Searches uncovered microfilm, cipher pads, and hidden photographic gear. Abel stayed calm, but the evidence stack grew uncomfortably high. His eventual conviction set a stage for a later swap. Liquor loosened lips that years of surveillance never fully cracked. Stig Wennerstrom caught after a maid found hidden microfilm. A routine house search uncovered a colonel's double life. Swedish security quietly suspected Stig Wennerstrom for years of spying. A maid cooperating with authorities found film hidden at home. Investigators later discovered caches in ceilings, vents, and garden spots. The microfilm documented deliveries of Air Force secrets to Soviets. Colleagues expressed disbelief, then combed projects for compromised details. Court proceedings were measured, methodical, and nationally painful to watch. Sentencing closed the case, but damage assessments continued painfully. A careful gentleman image cracked under a vacuum of trust. Stig Bergling escaped custody on honeymoon, intelligence mortified. A conjugal visit turned into an international disappearing act. Swedish spy Stig Bergling slipped away during a supervised outing. He and his partner crossed borders, eventually reaching the east. Officials scrambled, issuing alerts while airports and ferries were checked. The escape embarrassed security services and rattled political leadership domestically. Years later, he returned and faced renewed prison time. Policy reviews tightened leave rules for sensitive inmates across Scandinavia. Media coverage replayed the honeymoon angle endlessly, fueling public frustration. A romantic pretext hid a blunt security failure in plain sight. Berlin spy tunnel was compromised from day one. By Blake. A celebrated tunnel was doomed before shovels even hit soil. In Berlin, Anglo-American teams tapped Soviet lines beneath a street. MI6 officer George Blake had already told Moscow the plan. KGB let the taps run, measuring disinformation value against risk. Months of recordings piled up, while Soviet engineers played along. When discovered, cameras filmed soldiers displaying the tunnel indignantly. Western leaders weathered embarrassment, insisting collections still had intelligence value. Historians later debated how much was genuine versus staged traffic. A showcase feat became a case study in compromised beginnings. CIA plots to kill Castro with exploding cigar went nowhere. The world's most famous beard survived a parade of absurd plots. In Cuba, brainstorms included exploding cigars and poison diving gear. Some ideas floated through intermediaries, others stalled in planning stages. Nothing worked. Castro kept appearing alive, grinning at press cameras. Domestic politics complicated approvals, budgets, and ownership for deniable schemes. Defectors bragged about proposals, blurring lines between rumor and planning. Later releases revealed memos cataloging imaginative yet impractical approaches. The result was theater, not success, despite years of effort. 1,000 brainstorms met one resilient target and public fascination. Britain's Ankara valet sold embassy secrets to the Nazis. Cicero. A valet's camera captured Europe's war planning from a study. In Ankara, Elisha Bosna, codenamed Cicero, photographed embassy documents. He served the British ambassador while selling copies to Germany. His tiny camera and fast darkroom made nighttime visits profitable. Berlin debated authenticity, sometimes ignoring valuable content through paranoia. London tightened safe procedures, but leaks had already streamed out. Payments and disputes later shadowed his post-war life and memoirs. The episode showed domestic staff access beating complex technical systems. A quiet hallway turned into the most dangerous corridor in Turkey. SOE kept replying to German-controlled radios in the Netherlands. A radio operator's typo became a trapdoor for dozens. In the Netherlands, German counterintelligence captured agents and seized sets. They forced transmissions, copying codes and mimicking field procedures. Security checks were ignored, and warnings were discounted in London. New agents parachuted into waiting handcuffs and carefully staged ambushes. Equipment drops supplied the enemy with radios, cash, and hope. Interrogations and double sends turned networks into painful circular messages. Post-war investigations dissected signals discipline failures line by line. A missing authentication confirmed how small mistakes kill big missions. KGB's farewell leaked tech theft operations for months unnoticed. A single insider mapped an industrial-scale technology theft program. In Moscow, KGB officer Vladimir Vetrov passed documents to French handlers. The trove outlined Line X operations targeting Western research and industry. Allies inserted flawed technology and quietly rolled up collection channels. Moscow initially missed the source, eventually narrowing suspicions belatedly. Countermeasures rippled through factories, labs, and procurement fronts worldwide. Briefings described shopping lists, cover firms, and priority wish items. Arrests and expulsions followed, souring joint ventures and diplomatic pleasantries. One bureaucrat's frustration reshaped export control stories for a generation. CIA dropped agents into Albania. Philby warned Moscow first. Small boats delivered hope and doom onto Albania's dark coastline. Exiled teams trained in Europe, then slipped toward communist territory. Kim Philby warned Moscow, undercutting operations before landings even began. Ambushes greeted infiltrators. Arrests followed in villages and mountain passes. Radio sets became beacons for capture rather than coordination. Debriefings revealed foreknowledge, routes, and names already compromised there. The losses scarred planners and shattered confidence in shared vetting. Later revelations confirmed Philby's role, deepening transatlantic distrust profoundly. A covert gamble collapsed because the deck was marked beforehand. Germany's invasion spies landed in Britain. MI5 turned them all. Enemy agents arrived and promptly started working for Britain instead. During World War II, MI5 captured landings and offered choices. Cooperating spies transmitted controlled messages under the XX Committee's supervision. False targets, timing tweaks, and credibility tests shaped every transmission. Wireless vans triangulated new arrivals before they finished unpacking radios. Some agents invented pets, habits, and debts to sound believable. The network later reinforced the D-Day deception with disciplined detail. Post-war files showed meticulous logs, corrections, and referee-style oversight. A planned invasion spear became a boomerang inside Britain's coastline. Oleg Gordievsky's KGB bosses missed Britain's top Moscow asset. A senior KGB officer fled Moscow using a car seat. Oleg Gordievsky warned London about crises while directing operations in Denmark. Suspicion grew. He faced questioning and unofficial surveillance in Moscow. Signals were sent for a pre-arranged exfiltration through the Baltic. MI6 drivers executed a textbook border run via Finland's crossings. At home, colleagues realized too late who had been leaking. His insights shaped Western views of Kremlin fears and intentions. Public recognition arrived later, after years of careful silence. A child seat decoy became the emblem of quiet courage. Mata Hari's overhyped spycraft ended with a showy arrest. A dancer became a symbol larger than the actual case. Mata Hari, Dutch-born Margaretha Zell, dazzled Paris before espionage allegations. French counterintelligence accused her of passing military information to Germany. Arrests led to interrogation notes that mixed rumor with evidence. Her contacts included officers and diplomats during wartime scarcity and suspicion. Prosecutors emphasized seduction narratives. Defense argued exaggeration and scapegoating. She was executed by firing squad after a widely publicized trial. Historians still debate how much intelligence she truly delivered. An iconic name overshadowed a murkier file filled with contradictions.